Then along came DevSecOps. People started to realize that if you accelerate delivery of software to operations, then you'd better take care of the security while you're at it. Otherwise, you might be deploying software security concerns faster than ever before. So the idea of integrating security together with DevOps was sort of a natural idea. Shannon Leitz, I may be pronouncing that wrong. I'm not good at names. Sometimes it might be Lights, but Shannon is pretty well known as kind of the person that really spearheaded a lot of the original concepts, and her, along with some other people, came up with something called the DevSecOps Manifesto that we'll talk about in a couple of slides. She says the purpose and intent of DevSecOps is to build on the mindset that everyone's responsible for security, including development, in other words, with the goal of safely distributing security decisions at speed and scale to those who hold the highest level of context without sacrificing the safety required. So when she says distributing, she's talking about distributing the responsibility and the activities associated with security assurance across the pipeline or the value stream, and try to make security checks and balances, as early as possible, really, so that you don't have everything just concentrated in, let's say, a security group or something after the fact of deployment. There's a couple of slides here that explain the original DevSecOps manifesto. I don't think it's changed, actually. I haven't double checked that, but so it says the DevSecOps manifesto is a set of principles that outline how security should be integrated into the software development lifecycle. These are just biases and principles. So leaning in over always saying no. In other words, share responsibility, contribute, help others. That's also true of DevOps, let alone DevSecOps. Data and security science over fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So make decisions based on data. There's no such thing as 100% security. So you really need to understand what is, the probable risks, and, try to quantify that as much as you can and allocate security protections across the value stream or pipeline according to the most likely risks. Open contribution and collaboration over security only requirements. So in other words, don't just assume that you can sort of one day definitively define all these security requirements. This may be requiring ongoing collaboration and keeping an eye on, what are the security risks today, and maybe make some adjustments as you go along. Consumable security services with APIs over mandated security controls and paperwork. So in other words, the technology and the services associated with security should also be flexible, something that can be engaged with automation and redeployed according to what's important at the moment. And those things will evolve over time. You need to have an adaptable DevSecOps architecture, as we'll talk about later. Business-driven security scores over rubber stamp security. So in other words, those don't have just a static view of what is sufficient security. As I've said, there's no such thing as 100% security. But at any point in time, you would like to have some metrics to see, is security getting better or worse? And in the DevOps as well as DevSecOps world, it's often said that the trends are just as important as the absolute values of things. You're trying to obviously make continuous improvements, and even if you're not meeting absolute security, which is pretty much impossible anyway, what is important is that you're constantly making improvements. And the ultimate goals will change over time because the security risks can also evolve over time. Red and blue team exploit testing over relying on scans and theoretical vulnerabilities. Yeah, so they're saying that actually doing security, if like ethical hacking and actual exercises to figure out where you have some security problems, should be considered even more important than putting in place security scans that are just looking for, known vulnerabilities academically discovered or even empirically discovered. So be interactive with your products, and don't assume that the security scanners already take care of all the possibilities, because in this complex distributed software world, things change quickly. 24/7 proactive security monitoring over reacting after being informed of an incident. In other words, try to be more proactive as possible. That's especially getting more important with the evolution of AI, and the AI can also help with being more proactive. So you're not just reacting to problems as they're being reported, but rather looking for possible problems before they occur. Shared threat intelligence over keeping information to ourselves. So this is a little counterintuitive and a little countercultural a little bit. A lot of organizations think that you don't want to share your information, your private information, with, let's say, competing organizations, either within the company or outside the company. But in the case of security, it's actually the opposite. You really do want to share security concerns, and you want to hear from others because, again, there's no such thing as 100% security. The more you can learn, the better, and it will help. Not just you'll help you and everybody in the industry. Compliance operations over clipboards and checklists. So trying to automate compliance using DevSecOps, for example, rather than having static checks is more important. So those are some of the manifesto items. It continues in the next slide. The general concept is DevSecOps really relates to having software, in other words, delivered safer, meaning more secure, and faster, meaning trying to do frequent deployments and with quick lead times from development to production, just like the DevOps metrics. The general goal is to safely distribute security decisions, in other words, across the value stream, and shift that left as much as possible in the value stream at speed and scale. The faster you can get through the pipeline, the better, because then you're going to be able to get feedback quicker. But you definitely want to check things as you go, not just have all of the security concerns checks at the end. A general point here is through security as code. In other words, many of the security checks should be automated or handled by tools that support automation, and that would be represented as software code. We have and will learn that there's simply a better way for security practitioners like us to operate and contribute value with less friction. We know we must adapt our ways quickly and foster innovation to ensure data security and privacy issues are not left behind because we were too slow to change. Yeah, so there's an argument that without DevSecOps and all the automation associated with it, modern, security of modern distributed software systems and the complexity just wouldn't even be possible. So it's got to the point where DevSecOps isn't just a good idea. One could argue that it's a must-have, table stakes, and I can tell you many of my clients would agree with that they wouldn't dare, do DevOps without DevSecOps today. Certainly, if they have situations where they haven't got strong security controls, they're busy working on trying to improve them.